This episode of the Rawder Kidula Show is proudly brought to you by JK Studios. JK Studios, capturing every moment. Coming up on the Rawder Kidula Show.
So there are rumors why you're leaving.
Oh, what are the rumors?
I have heard that you've been frustrated a lot. Mm-hmm. That is why you're leaving. Mm-hmm. I have heard that you wanted to be bishop. So when it didn't happen,
Now we have to leave.
you're splitting the church into two. So we don't want that. Now we have asked you to resign peacefully. I've heard that you are not seeing eye to eye with some Citam
Leaders.
your leaders. So they have asked you to leave peacefully.
No.
Let me let the employee of Citam answer that.
This is the Rodah Kidula Show.
Hi and welcome back to the Rodah Kidula Show. So glad that you're part of this community and these conversations that we have. My name is Mrs. Rodah Kidula Kedaha, and I'm so honored today especially to be hosting a couple that I have known and I admire a lot. And if you are part of Citam, Christ is the Answer Ministries, they don't need any introduction. You know them already. So we are going to just know them and get to know and get a few lessons from their marriage and ministry as well. So karibuni sana, welcome.
Asante.
Thank you, Bishop.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
I have known you for how long? Before I knew you, I
Yes.
met you.
Oh, yeah.
No, I heard about you.
Yeah.
I heard you on radio.
You were on Hope that time, yes.
I was a fan, not even at Hope.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I knew your name before physically meeting you.
Right.
Yeah, then I hosted you once and I was like, I was just told on radio you're going to host the deputy bishop. Oh, pressure. I was like, what do I say? I remember I went on air and I called you a senior pastor. I forgot everything. Yeah, so, and you interviewed my husband when he was coming to work for PFM.
Yes.
So he always tells me, you
Right.
know, Bishop Kimio is the one who interviewed me. And they asked for me, I asked about my salary. And I said 40,000. And he asked me, are you sure? And I told him, I'm here to propagate the gospel. I'm not here for money. Yeah, so he always tells me that story.
Good memories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
Mom Joy, of course, after knowing you, I got to meet her. And one day I was in my worst place and she called me for coffee and really encouraged me. And we've been friends since then. Thank you for attending my wedding, both of you.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself properly.
Wow. Well, Reverend Ken Kimiwe, and of course, as you'll get to know, Joy Kimiwe, who is my wife. We've been married now for the last 31 years. The Lord has blessed us with two lovely children who are now young adults and people who have their own lives and, seeking and looking into their own careers. We've been in ministry also almost about the same time, because when I got married to my wife, that was about the time also the Lord was impressing on me getting into ministry. And so we had barely gotten married 2 years, and then I went into ministry. So I've been in ministry almost about the same amount of years. We can say about 29 now. And we have been around Citam in terms of service, at least served in 6 different places. And also when we came into Citam, we came as intern pastors. So I've served as an intern pastor. I've served as a visitation pastor. That was at Valley Road those days. And then thereafter got posted to be the senior pastor at Citam Woodley. Then from there we went to Pastor Citam Buruburu, actually pioneer the Citam Buruburu church branch. We stayed there for a while. Again, there were some changes in Citam. And I happened to come back to Valley Road now as the senior pastor, and served there for a while before later on again there were some changes, and I was made to be the deputy bishop. And so when you are deputy bishop, you couldn't be a senior pastor at the same time. But about the same time also, we had some changes that enabled me now to get back again into pastoral work. So I was the senior pastor at Citam Buruburu and deputy bishop at the same time. And for the 6 years that I was deputy bishop, I was also senior pastor at Citam Buruburu. And then, of course, my 6-year term as a deputy bishop came to an end because in our constitution, you can do a max of
6 years.
2 terms, which are normally 3 years each, a maximum of 6 years. And so I did my 6 years exemplarily. I want to believe so.
Yes.
Because we were used of God to do what God helped us to do for that period when I was deputy. And then took a sabbatical leave because I thought, after almost 25 years of service, we had never had a break. I was just moving from one assembly to the other, filling spaces and opportunities that required my resource. And so I never had opportunity to be with myself and just have time off from ministry. And so I took a sabbatical leave, and I think it was the right time because I was able to travel and do many things during my sabbatical leave. And then came back in 2020, and that is when we were asked to be the senior pastors at Citam Thika Road, where we served barely for 2 years. And we came to Citam Gong, where we have now been for our last 1 year, and served here for that period of time. And we feel now the Lord leading us to not just ministry in Citam, but to go and serve the broader global Church of God.
Wow.
And so that has been our story through Citam. And I remember at some point before I actually came into full-time ministry, both my wife and I were involved in ministry just like any other young person in the church. I was involved in the counseling ministry. I was involved in the visitation ministry. I was active in the outreach missions. We would go places, preach the word of God, and and then also I became an usher at some point. So we were active in church. I'm telling you,
him as an usher.
In a red jacket.
We expended our energy in just serving God, and I think that has been our trend over the years. Our zeal, our commitment for the things of God has been unequivocal in terms of commitment and our desire just to be used of God. And so again, when I met my wife in the same church, she was in the choir, and she will say her own story. But that is how we connected. Two young people busy in the church, but also involved with young People's Fellowship, Young Adults People's Fellowship, that we used to call Varsity Careers College Fellowship, which would take in people who are in the university, colleges, and also people who are just beginning career. So that is how we started our life.
That's you.
And that's how I got to know my good wife Joy over these years. Yes, and I usually call her the joy of my heart.
Wow.
Yes.
The joy of his heart. Please introduce yourself.
Okay.
My name is Joy Kimeye. Apparently, I was called Joy Kigame before I became Joy Kimeye. And I also, the story is almost similar. We met at church. I was introduced to Citam by my elder sisters who used to attend. So after schooling, for us, secondary school, we had secondary school, then high school. So secondary school from 1 to 4, primary to secondary school, I was in Western. That's where I come from. And now I went to Form 5 and 6. I know it sounds funny, Form 5 and Form 6. I went to Machakos Girls, and Machakos is very near by Nairobi. So that's why I started staying with my older siblings in Nairobi. And they were attending Citam. That would be around 86, 87. That's when I started coming to Citam Valley Road. I joined the choir. I was in this. We actually, before the Varsity College Career Fellowship, VCCF, we were in the youth. The youth were lower than that now. So normal youth, teenagers, young adults, late teens and early 20s. So we were also in the youth. Then we graduated to, I was in the youth and I graduated. I keep saying we because I've been married for longer than I was single. I was in the choir. I served there. We were officials in the youth in this VCCF. And that's where we met.
Who saw who first?
We kept seeing each other for a long time without seeing each other.
Yeah, you see the beauty, the beauty about being involved in ministry, and that's what I keep on telling even the young people who are in church, because some of them, they go out there looking for spouses in marriage, and some of them land into the wrong
trouble.
Places. Because you're interacting with people you don't know. Probably you just hear them or you see them, but in a momentarily kind of setup. But for us, we were part of a fellowship. We were involved in ministry. And so there was a lot of time to interface in terms of getting to know who is this, what do they do, what is their zeal, their commitment for God. And for me, definitely, I was looking out for a girl who had a commitment for the Lord. And that is what I saw in her. And so she was no stranger. By the time I was proposing to her, I knew whom I was proposing to. And I knew what I was going to go for or what I was getting at that time.
But it took so long. We saw each other. We used to greet each other. We used to have something called... we used to go to Kanamai in Mombasa every Easter under the leadership of the late Dr. Tokumbo Adeyemo. He was the one in charge of that fellowship. So we used to go for retreats as young people who are not married. And there you also interact and so on. So we knew each other well. So at some point I thought, this person I've been seeing and known. I started having ideas. Not quiet. I started having ideas and I kept those ideas to myself. I think he was having his, but he's so structured that he knew I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. Then I know when to propose. He had his young siblings.
Well, what plunged us into this closeness is her dad. Her dad fell ill and was at the brink of
death,
passing on. And I remember going to visit him in hospital,
at MPESA.
And we were just having, that compassionate heart and trying to, pray with him and something like that. And then, of course, not so long after that, he passed on. And again, my compassionate heart and my desire to be there for her, to just strengthen her, because we organized the whole team from her place of work, and they are now gotten to know me because they used to see me hanging around.
Quite a lot, hanging
and then
around.
We also had another close group of young people also from the church who used to hang around together with. So we purposed we were going to travel and be with her as they go to Bari Mzee. And I think out of that,
something developed. My closeness to her and my wanting to just, comfort her and strengthen her through that period brought us more closer to one another. It's true. And he really was a strong, that was the first death for me in the family. It was devastating. It was very devastating to a point. I remember one time walking to my little house where I was staying, and as I got to the door, I had run away from church, prayer meeting on Tuesday, because when you go, they start singing hymns, it's a trigger, you start crying, so I had run away. And I got to my doorstep, and I believe it was the devil who was saying, why don't you just give up about this God? I said, devil, what are you saying? I will not give up. I will stick on, even if it is just like a small thread that is holding me to God. I will not give up. So at that time, I needed a lot of comfort, and he really did a good job of it. He would come, visit, you know, talk to me, encourage me. Yeah, I think that is how the closeness started. We were not dating then. We were not dating
You're
then.
good friends.
Yes, but that is how it started.
Right.
How was your first year of marriage?
Maybe just backtrack a little bit. When we had the wedding, I mean, it was a grand wedding.
Ooh.
Because both me and my wife come from big churches. Big families, sorry. And then also, we were heavily involved in the church.
Yes.
So everybody in the church wanted to be part of the wedding.
Yes.
And everybody from our family wanted to be part of the wedding.
Yeah.
So we had a huge crowd of people. And
over 1,000 people.
we didn't know how to take care of them.
Yes, we didn't have the money.
We didn't have that kind of money that time. But the first year for us was more of, we were very objective. When we went for our honeymoon, we decided to come up with a strategic plan. You know, what we were hoping to do, when and how many children we were going to have, what kind of jobs we want to have, and what kind of place we want to stay. So the first year for us was, of course, number one was to bring her into the place which we had already identified.
He had to move from where he was to go to this place
and we wanted,
just before the wedding.
Yeah, we wanted to begin our family from there. And of course, also there were some of my family people who are staying with me to make sure that they had moved out so that they give us space for ourselves. Which we felt was also very key. Sometimes if you don't do that, sometimes they crowd into your space because you are still learning one another. You're still trying to see how you can organize yourself in terms of your money and everything else. And so I had to organize my sisters outside of that place. And of course, the other thing was I was in Bible college. I was just still trying to get through my Bible college. So that was one of my focuses, that I needed to finish Bible college even as I settled down my family. And then...
Although Bible college came a little later, not in the first year, came a little late, maybe 2 years late. 1 year, after 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you knew very well you're getting married to a pastor.
He was not a pastor. He was a mechanical engineering teacher at Kabete Technical. I was not getting married to a pastor.
No.
I did not get married to a pastor.
Serious?
But I knew he would head that direction. I wouldn't be too surprised. I wasn't going to be surprised because he was heavily involved in missions. Every holiday, because he was a teacher, he would be out of Nairobi doing... There's no place in Kenya he does not know. The rural area of Kenya, he knows so many places. Very few, including Rusinga Island. He has slept on banana leaves doing missions. So
we were sold out for the kind of upbringing I came up with right from when I got born again in Christian Union. People had such zeal and a commitment for winning souls. And so for us during the holiday, you don't go anywhere else. You'll be looking at which is the next mission station. And even my family, they knew when it is holiday time, you don't see this guy. You'll either be in a convention or in a camp, or you'll be out in a mission. So that is how my life was. But still coming back to the first year of marriage, as I said, for us it was more of settling down, trying to understand how things are going to be, how we want to get our families. And of course, as I said, the call for ministry was coming in very strongly. And then she was also working in a place where she wasn't quite really settled. We felt she needed to get out and try something else. And the good Christian lady that she was, she thought it was going to be injustice to God. But I told her, no, you can still be a Christian and work elsewhere. You don't have to work in a Christian organization
where I was working.
So for us, the first year basically was a time of really
Adjusting.
laying out foundation and trying to see how do we want to move on with our lives.
Let me say it from my perspective. For me, the first 2 years of marriage were honeymoon.
Oh.
It was beautiful. Yes, there was adjusting, but I think our personalities complemented each other. Of course, different personalities, but we complemented. For me, I was treated like a queen. It was beautiful. I used to feel embarrassed when my peers are talking and they're talking about things I can't talk about because they're not happening in my life. Yeah, I enjoyed our first years of marriage. Not that I'm not enjoying now, but they were beautiful. Even with the adjustment of the cup, you're taking uji instead of tea. When do you take which meal and so on. Even with all that, it was beautiful. Apparently, people may think people of our age did not have premarital counseling.
By the way,
we actually had premarital counseling.
We actually chose two.
Yes.
By Pastor Dennis White. And apart from that, we were very proactive. We visited and talked to many couples who were older than us. We would go into their homes, they talked to us, many. So we heard from so many people. We were just now waiting for the practicals.
For the practicals.
Yes, which were different from what we learned.
Theory.
But they were beautiful years.
Then the babies started coming.
Yes, the babies came after 2 years.
After 2 years. That was according to your plan?
No, according to God's plan. Our plan was 1 year. So it took us about a year, planned, and God added us 1 more year. And of course, any young lady would be thinking, hey, am I barren? Hey, something is wrong. So for me, it was a bit unsettling. But I realized it was just the effects of whatever I may have been using. And eventually the baby came 2 years later, a baby girl called Wendy. And when the babies came in, now it was parenting.
Yes.
Apparently, as I was expecting Wendy, I had moved, as she said, I needed to move from that place where I was working. I had worked for some time. And I went to another place. And when my boss realized that I was expectant, because I needed to, I went to see a doctor and it would show that you're seeing a gyna. I was laid off. And he had just resigned from his teaching position to go to Pan-African Christian College then.
To go into ministry.
To go into ministry.
But maybe if I may just add something, ideally for us again, we had focused that within the first 5 years of our marriage, we will have finished the baby
business. Yes.
And so we actually got our children within that period of time. We were very structured. We wanted to do things in a way that it was comfortable. And then also if we were to go to school or if any one of us needed to pursue anything, we had all that in mind because we knew we were still at a very foundational stage of our own lives also. Because she was on her first job, I was on my first job. We had never been involved in anything else before. So we needed to make sure that we had good foundation so that even as we are thinking about the future of our children, we know that we have laid a base on how we can be able to support them as they grow up. But like again, as you mentioned, apparently during that season of my being called and going into ministry and her being laid out, God also confirmed really that he had called us into ministry. And how did he do that? When she was actually 8 months pregnant and somebody would never think of employing her.
Job.
That's when she got her job.
Yes.
And someone laid you off when you just discovered.
When I was going to Bible college, again, one
God
of the members of the church just offered to pay my school fees. And many other things also opened up that reassured us that our going into full-time ministry was not just our own idea. That God was calling us and he was going to provide for us.
And he did provide. In fact, we lived better at that point. God provided in miraculous ways. And of course, we want to also appreciate our family members who came in once in a while. But we decided we will not be calling them every time there's a problem. They're not the ones who called us. If we called them, they would come and help us, But we wanted to trust God, We wanted to trust God. So he provided. I remember one time, financially it was not easy. But I remember one time I was talking to God and saying, hey, what will we eat today?
Yeah.
And it is getting late. I don't have anything. And like a foolish young Christian, I said, God, please, if you provide, please provide ready-made food, because by the time I start kata, it was a foolish prayer, which he answered.
Oh.
Because a lady walked in at 7 p.m. with chapati and stew. Yes, and said, I know Pastor likes chapati. I've always wanted to bring, but I've never had time. This is the time I thought I should bring. My tears were coming out and she couldn't understand. Later on, I told her why I was crying.
Wow.
Yeah.
God answered.
He also provided cars. We were given cars that we didn't ask for. Yes, yes. Our first 2 cars were not bought. We were given. God really provided.
Amen.
And were you okay with him now going into full-time ministry?
I didn't even think about it.
Many young girls are scared of getting married to pastors.
I didn't
Leave
even
alone
think
a
about
bishop.
I didn't even. He wasn't a bishop.
But you have the experience now.
I didn't even think about it. He said, "Oh, I'm stopping to go to park."
Yeah.
Okay. I was also foolish and naive, and I'm thinking, and
Yeah.
I really trusted him.
Okay.
When we got married, I just used to look at him and think, wow, God just rescued me. Just a foolish, naive girl,
Yeah.
and brought this man to help me through life.
life.
He knew a lot of things. I believed a lot in him, and I thought, whatever he said, he has prayed about it.
Yeah.
God must have led him, and we also prayed about things. I was also a
Although-
trusting Christian.
Yeah, although a bit of her background also home-wise.
Yeah.
You know, the mother was a very highly placed church leader.
Yes.
So I think ministry was also part of their lives.
Yeah.
In as much as their dad was not so much a church person,
He was a Catholic.
but the mother was on the forefront
Born again.
of the Pentecostal assemblies. of
Spirit-filled.
God.
Yeah.
So they were kind of exposed to some kind of ministry.
She worked with your grandmother very closely.
My grandmother.
Yes, your father's mother. You don't know that.
Allah. Allah.
Yeah.
I want us to go back to what could you have done better, maybe in the first few years.
Of marriage.
Yeah, first 5, looking back.
Let me attempt before he comes in. I can't think of anything I would have done better. You know why? Because we planned, but
Yeah.
God had other plans. Like me not having a job, him not resigning to go and start Bible. Those were beyond us.
Oh, yes.
So even if we planned, we wouldn't have done it any better. We
Yeah.
now left ourselves in his hands. But if we were financially endowed, I personally would have been a stay-home mom.
Really?
I would have wanted to bring my children up myself.
You're making me feel so nice.
Yes, but the looking for the Kenyan shilling now that he's a student is the one that kept me in the job. And he talked about a job I got when I was 8 months pregnant.
Yes.
This is the job I left about in 2018.
Really?
This is the same job. I grew into the ranks and I worked there for 24 years.
Wow.
Yes, and I voluntarily retired so that I can join him in ministry.
Yeah.
And I can do what my passion is,
Which is?
which is counseling,
Counseling,
working
yeah.
with people. Yeah.
Wow. Why do you think that raising children is important?
Oh, it makes a whole lot of difference. Children who are brought up by their own parents or mothers are very confident. They know many things the others would not do. No, they rarely would go through abuse. Because even if you leave them with the house girl, it is for a few minutes, and the mom, you are the one cooking their food.
Yes.
You take care of their nutrition. You do their homework with them. You are fully available for them.
Yeah.
They say children are nurtured. The foundation is between 0 to 7 years. So if I was with them at home for 7 years, then now look for something to do, I would have grounded them the way they need to be grounded. It's different from when other people help you. Because one will tell them this, another one, you know how house girls come and go, one will say this, one will introduce them to this, one will,
But they have turned out very well.
Yes, but maybe they would have turned out better.
They have turned out very well. What could you have done better? Or
For
differently?
me, I don't know.
Differently.
Personally, my approach to life is always objective. So I don't think I would have done anything differently. I think what I did was very constructive because I knew the responsibilities that I was getting into.
Yes.
And for me, the kind of upbringing and orientation I had, whenever you are getting into something, you need to have preparation towards that.
Yeah.
So before I got married to her, I made sure I had gotten myself settled job-wise.
Yes.
That was me. And I used to work with the 5-year kind of projections. So I worked for 5 years and I knew now I had settled down and I was ready for family. So that by the time I was bringing her home, I knew now I have the prerequisites for raising up a family.
So while I was waiting, he was busy structuring himself.
And then when we also got married, as I told you, we sat down and we needed to know, so how do we move into this marriage?
Yes.
What do we want to do when? We want to maintain the jobs that we want to have, we are having currently, or do we want to change? And that's when I introduced her to the need to change her job so that she could probably earn a little bit more. For us,
Also comfortable.
Yeah, to break even and to do the things that we needed to do as a family. And we were also involved in church. So for me, I would say I won't change so much because I think we had followed the right path. We were in the right environment. We had mature people around us who could counsel, who could direct us. We had family support also. So I would say, I think that should be the way to go.
Parenting,
In terms of parenting, again, we were there for our children. Because I grew up in a complete family where dad and mom have been part of my life from when I started school to when I finished. And that's the kind of thing I wanted to give also my children. So whenever they had any school program or any activity, I would be present.
We have never missed their activities, especially in primary school.
Right.
They were in Citam Woodley, and we would be there from nursery, from baby class when they're swimming with floaters. We were there.
I did my homework with the children and signed their book from school. So I would say the Lord helped us to be the best that we could be at that particular time. Not that we are perfect. No. I think that is far from it.
I think we just worked with what we had.
A lot is said about pastors' children.
Yes, a lot.
And many times we are told to raise them in the ways of the Lord, and so that when they grow up, they will not depart. For someone who's watching and maybe they're also in ministry and their children seem to be departing, what would you tell them? They have done their best, but the child is behaving.
I think it all goes with the family orientation. Because if the children are part of your ministry, it's easier for them to understand and appreciate what dad and mom is doing in the ministry. But when you are just running from one place to the other, busy with the people, and the children are behind there, and even sometimes your wife is out of focus, I think that's where the loophole comes in. Because your family is not part of your ministry, so they don't know even the struggles or the challenges that you go through. But for us, in being in ministry, our children have been part of us, right from the word go. And wherever we went, we involved them, and they were part of what was going on. And of course, as my wife would tell you, and which I've appreciated over the years, is her supportive role in my ministry. And people would know I preach the word, she does the ministry of music. And that has complemented and helped us to have a two-pronged approach to ministry. And so raising up our children with that kind of an environment has been healthy, because there is nothing that we withheld from them or they did not know about ministry. Even when we went through the rough times and the good times, they have been aware about it.
Been part of it.
And then one of the cultures that we also cultivated as a family is whenever it is possible, we would go at least once away for leave. So she would take leave, I would take leave coincidentally.
During holidays.
And then also when the children are on holiday. And that has also helped us build a culture around our home where we can interact, we can talk.
Can be ourselves without ties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But not to say that every young person in teenage would want to experiment things and so on.
Yeah.
So this is not to say that we may not know what they may have done. They may have deviated at some point or other.
Yeah.
But recently, as they were giving speeches when we had a family get together, we were shocked at what they were saying. We realized also we didn't lose them. We have not lost them. It was very, very comforting to hear that. They may have deviated. Every teenager, sometimes they get into bad company.
Yes.
So we are not saying our children are perfect. I remember at one point in school, a teacher was really on my daughter's case in primary school. And she said, please tell teacher so-and-so, I'm not Pastor Ken. And I'm not a spirit-filled grown-up. I'm just a teenager like any other. Whatever is happening to other teenagers is happening to me. So she expressed what pastors' children go through. People have a lot of expectations. They're supposed to be number one in school.
Yes.
They're supposed to be on top of the class, even if they're encouraged. They're supposed to be disciplined. They're supposed to behave like grown-ups. They're just children like any other. So it is true, pastors' children may deviate, but whose children don't do that? Church leaders' children also deviate. Yeah.
But again, let me understand the home environment
matters a lot.
Because if the child, for whatever reason, feels insecure in the home,
at home,
then they will go look out for alternatives. But so long as the home environment is loving, is caring, and they are provided for, it's very rare that a child would go out. I know there are those who can easily be swayed by other influences.
Yes, especially company.
But what a child needs is security, is
affirmation,
that what we would call self-significance, in the sense that they know that these are people who value me and whom I can depend on. And like she said, when our son and our daughter were talking the other day,
we realized
that's exactly what they were trying to confirm. That we have never put them at a place where they were at loss or where they felt insecure. And so for me, if I would talk to any of the other colleagues in ministry, particularly pastors, is just make the home environment to be secure for your children and let them know that they are also part of what goes on in the family. And
be their friends.
Yes, and just be available for them. Be available for them. Don't substitute ministry with the time that you need to have to be with your children. And I normally tell people there are three things that should make sure they are properly arranged in your life. There is a place for God, there is a place for family. There is a place for ministry. And you never substitute God with family, nor family with ministry. No.
And so it is God first, family, then ministry, not the other way around.
Okay.
And when you
God is different from ministry.
Yes, and He's above.
Okay.
You see, you need to have a personal relationship with God. That is paramount.
Yes.
That is foundational.
That is number one.
Yes.
And then after that, He called you into ministry.
Yes.
But He called you into ministry when you are in a family.
In a family. So family second.
Family comes first.
Ministry should come third.
Many times we reverse.
And indeed, when you bring them up in the ways of the Lord, even if they were to depart, they come back. They come back. That is our comfort. And I want to say to a pastor family that are struggling with their children because they do struggle, that they will come back. You've done your best. You have prayed. You've done what you can do as a father, as a mother. Leave the rest to God. Because some get into adulthood when they still don't know God and they've gone very far. Some don't want anything to do with God because they feel we've been held up in this church and now we need to go out there and explore. Keep at it, praying for them. It is never too late. God will come on time. So don't give up. Be encouraged.
Amen.
And keep praying.
Hi. We interrupt this to bring you good news of a book I have written, You're Now a Man. My name is Sammy Kaihori, and what a privilege it is to introduce you to this book, You're Now a Man. It's a gift of virtues and values to your teenage son. In here, we challenge the theory that after the cut, you are a man. No, we challenge the young man to go beyond the cut. Grab yourself a copy of this book for your teenage son. You're Now a Man. Details scrolling on your screen.
Do the two of you ever argue?
Yes.
You don't look like.
Don't even go there.
Hey, I'm just watching you. I'm like, hey.
We do, but we try to fight fair. We don't throw each other
Did you
into
start
pieces.
from year one fighting fair, or you have learned how to?
No, we have learned how to
Oh.
fight fair. Of course, year one, you try to nuna, you try whatever, it doesn't work. One thing I would say is that we do fight, but it has lessened with time. We argue less because as you grow together, you understand one another. I can almost tell you what he's going to say when you ask a certain question. So there's less conflict. But we do argue, we do disagree. But if we disagree about this glass, we continue talking about the flower. We don't stop talking because we argued.
Okay.
Initially, I tried nunaring because it feels
Nunaring
nice.
is
Nunaring is going mute and getting annoyed. Sulking is the word. It didn't work because it doesn't recognize it. He would just continue talking as if nothing happened. So in the first year, he stopped trying. So we don't have nil by mouth.
But ideally, what we are also saying is that there is no perfect marriage.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I think if you ever go that way,
Yeah.
you are going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Even for pastors,
Yeah.
we are not perfect human beings. We are servants of God, yes, but we are still human beings.
Yeah.
And so long as you are a human being, you have your flaws, you have your
Shortcomings.
things that come in and that may not make you to be that perfect.
Yeah.
And when I look at families and when I talk with people also about marriage, that's one of the things I usually like to bring out very clearly.
Yeah.
That your wife is not a perfect human being, neither are you a perfect human being. So which brings in the possibility, that she can make mistakes, you can also make mistakes.
Yeah.
And those mistakes are the ones that definitely bring in conflict.
Yeah.
So for us, as much as I'm married to her, she's not a perfect human being. And that's how I look at her, that she can make mistakes just as much as I can also make a mistake.
Yeah.
And what then brings us into the place of understanding is that if she can make a mistake and I can make a mistake, then there should be room also where we can forgive one another. And appreciate the fact that, okay, you may have had a problem, maybe that's why you made this mistake.
Yeah.
But we can still get to know that there is a solution to that problem and move on with our life.
Yeah.
And usually I like to look at marriage life as until death do us apart. So you don't want to stay a whole while
Not talking to each other.
miserable. And yet these are issues that you could easily engage with and deal with them and get over with them.
Let me give him some credit. He's very gracious. He doesn't carry grudges. He doesn't. He's very forgiving, very gracious. He's not judgmental.
Yeah.
That one is something I've had to learn from him, not to be quick to judge other people.
Yeah.
He has a lot of grace, and he many times has extended that grace to me, and I have had to learn from him to do the same. And not be too judgmental. That one I have learned from him,
And how have
which
you
I really
coped with-
appreciate.
And how have you coped with the congregation interfering with your family or marriage? I always feel like sometimes we as the congregation can be a bit too much, or is that the calling?
Let me be the first to talk because I'm the recipient.
Yeah.
I share him with thousands
Everyone,
of people.
yeah.
People want to see him. People want
Yes.
counseling and so on. And I think it's just a matter of focusing for him to know when it is time for the congregation, when it is time for his family.
Yeah.
But I would want to say that pastors and ministers spend a lot of time out there.
Yes.
By the time they come home, they are tired. And one is initially in a marriage, it will be strenuous on your relationship.
Yeah.
But with time, you learn to know when to now, hey, it is time now to retreat and have our own time and so on and so forth. And there are a lot of expectations from the congregants. And Citam has many, many people. Everyone has expectations.
Yes.
You just focus and do what God expects from you. If you go by the congregation's expectations, you may not meet all of them. So you do your part and leave the rest to God. But there are times when it is necessary for me to point out, because he is the pastor,
Yes.
although I support him and I'm equally involved in ministry. I will say, hey, we need to spend some time together
Yes.
now. We need to spend some time together now. I want to share a very funny incident earlier in marriage when we were now in Buruburu. Not too early, but in the middle part of our marriage. He was so busy in Buruburu because it's a church plant.
Yes.
And to come from Buruburu early is wasting time because Jogoo Road was so full.
Yes.
He will spend maybe 3 hours trying to come home. So he would have to wait until the jam comes down.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that. So at one point I thought, hey, this is my husband. I've not been seeing him.
Yes.
So I went there.
church?
I went to church to Buruburu. This is a funny thing. And I found him in the office. Oh, you are coming. Did you have a meeting? I said, no. I had asked him in the morning, do you have a meeting? No, unless somebody comes for counseling. He didn't know why I was asking. So I just went there and I acted. I told him, senior pastor, I've come to see you. My husband is a pastor and he's so busy and I'm not finding a lot of time with him. So I thought I should come for counsel from you. So he got the point. I have a lot of humor. So he got the point and we just came home. But now he explained that why I have to come late is if I leave at 5, I will get here at 9. So I might as well wait. So sometimes when you talk about things now you understand. Because what is he doing in the office up to this time? So when you find out and you know why, then you understand. And ministry is very critical. And sometimes we as the members of the family of ministers are selfish.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes you are calling and calling and calling, and maybe he's dealing with somebody who is about to take away their lives.
Yeah.
And it is so critical that now you first leave, you know now which is the priority. Do I help this person not to take their lives, or do I run to my wife?
Yeah.
So for a minister's wife or spouse, I would say there are times you let ministry take its course because it is about lives.
Yeah.
It is about people.
And
allow your husband, allow your wife to minister.
And if I may say, because you talked about congregation and the pastor's family, I think priority is what should take preeminence. What do I mean by priority? You have these different compartments and you must prioritize which takes lead.
Yes.
We talked about God, we talked about family and we talked about ministry. So as the pastor, you need to know how to balance these 3 areas in your life, because you need time with God to hear his voice and to also have your own personal relationship with him. But also on the other hand, you have a family here that you need to take care of. And so you need to find time for the family, a time when the family can find you, they can engage with you. All right? And if you do not provide for that, then you open up a loophole. And then there is also the ministry, which now has to do with the congregants and other things that you do. And so again, you need to know when should I be doing ministry and how should I be able to do it. And when you have all those things in balance, it is very possible then you don't have any problems with the congregants. And for us, I think we have also tried to be ourselves with our congregations. We have never tried to pretend or to show what we are not. In fact, in most of my sermons, I try to open up myself sometimes openly, so that I let people know, hey, this is not an angel that is talking to you. This is not
perfect human being,
somebody that has just come from heaven, pop like this, and therefore bringing out ideals of life. No. I sometimes use my own personal experiences in life to make the congregation to interface with what I'm talking about, so that I'm not talking over their heads. Neither do I like to go into deep deep texture and sometimes a lot of expositional stuff that remains so much into the mind
But
and that
not
does not connect
touch
with
the
the
heart.
people's
Yes.
realities. And so with that, I think God has given us a special grace with every congregation that we have ever been to. We have had such a lovely flow of communication and relationship. In fact, we have had such good support from the congregations. And people look up to us because of giving them room and being with them also when they are hurting, when they are going through their challenges in life. We are there. When they are wedding, when they are married,
people.
all these things, we try to be there for them. And I think when you are there as a pastor, that connection tends to help the congregation know you better, and you are able also to know them better.
Maybe just one thing for the pastor or pastor's family member who is watching. Sometimes members of the congregation, I'll be very open, members of the congregation once in a while will want to own a pastor, especially when you are starting a ministry. This is my pastor.
My
when
daddy.
they have this, no, not really that. The daddy's part is okay, but when they have a child graduating from kindergarten, they want you to go there and pray. When they are doing the, housewarming, engagement party, they want you to be in the Rawder show, which is okay. They want you to be in the wedding as well. They want you to be there in the. So you become the personal pastor of a particular family. So for a minister, I would say find a way of, even if you can delegate, so that other people can also help you, so that the family does not own you. So that the family does not own you. And when you miss to go because you are busy, then they are hurt that our pastor did not come. You are a pastor of 6,000 people. You can't concentrate on only one family. So maybe in the course of ministry, we may have had some when we are not available. But when you are serving 6,000 people, we are not omnipresent. You can't be everywhere at the same time. So for the member of the congregation, understand pastors have so many people to attend to, and they may not always be there for you. They also have families. They also go through bereavement, so they also have their own things to do.
Well, as we conclude, I'd like to talk about maybe church hurt. There are people who've been frustrated by church. And you guys are leaving Citam and happily. I always love people who transition with joy, happily. So there are rumors why you're leaving.
What are the rumors?
I have heard that you've been frustrated a lot. That is why you're leaving. I have heard that you wanted to be bishop. So when it did happen,
So now we have to leave.
You're splitting the church into two. So we don't want that. Now we have asked you to resign peacefully. I've heard that you are not seeing eye to eye with some Citam your leaders. So they have asked you to leave peacefully.
No.
Let me let the employee of Citam answer that.
No. I think those are all perceptions. As I said, we have been in Citam now for the last 30 years or so. And part of being in ministry and adhering to God's calling to go and serve, Citam was the place where we kind of gotten into first. But besides serving Citam, I've been involved in many other ministries in and outside of Kenya. So our diversity in terms of the scope of our administration is not just limited to Citam. It has also exposed us to the global church. And so having done what we've been able to do in Citam, we sense and we have the conviction that it is high time now we went to serve outside of Citam. Because we have given our time to Citam, and Citam is a local church, but we have the global church out there where we can go and also offer our gifts and the various resources that God has invested in us, and the experience that also we have had in ministry. And I, for one, I have three major thrusts that would cause me to want to go beyond the walls of Citam. Number one is I've always, and I continue to walk with the young emerging leaders or ministers, if you may want to put it that way, people who have the call of God, and they just want somebody to walk with them and guide them. And I want to thank God that we have done that in Citam across the board. I don't want to be very specific, but I want to say that across the board, we have walked with different ones who wanted to come into ministry. And by virtue of walking with us, some of them are now key people in this ministry. And then secondly, the other thing that I sense the Lord leading me into, and which I would want to also be part of, is developing, empowering, and growing people who are already in ministry. And particularly those who have yet to go through theological training. Not everyone has that privilege. And we have been doing that across Africa in different ways. And I would want to now even expand it even further. If God wants me to go to Asia or to Europe or to America or whichever other places where ministers would just need somebody to hold their hand and help them be more effective in what they are doing in ministry. We want to do that. And then thirdly, between my wife and I, we have been working with families. And one of the thrusts, one of the passions that we have had in Citam is working with the families and helping people in marriage. And so we are looking at ourselves going out there into coaching families and doing marriage therapy where there is a need. And more specifically also, even with ministers' families. We would want to work with families of ministers that are stumbling, that are struggling, that are hurting. And so those are opportunities that we see God opening wide and far. The other thing that I have, and I don't mind, whenever opportunity would arise, and I see in a way making coming that way, is church planting and growing ministries. That is something that I've always thrived in, and that I always like to see happening. And so we are going that way because that is how the Lord is leading us.
You.
So let me demystify.
All the rumors I have heard.
I know we had our own shave here and there with Citam. And one of the things that I also got to discover since coming into ministry, when I came into ministry, I was fresh, I was raw. It was just ministry, and you do the work of God, and that is it. But coming into ministry, I discovered that you are dealing with human beings. And human beings are not perfect. Just like the way I said in marriage, when you come in there with the perception that you are getting married to a perfect man or a perfect woman, you'll be very disappointed. Likewise, can I also say loud and clear, even in ministry, you'll find there are human beings.
And you are also
a
human being.
Human beings, they have their flaws, they have their own challenges.
You have your own.
People can be envious about what is happening with you. And I've always said, like the Bible says, your gift makes a way for you. But also on the other hand, your gift also attracts enmity. And that's what we see even with Joseph. As much as he had such a zeal and a commitment for the things of God, but yet on the other side, there are those who didn't think right about him.
Even David the king.
So we can't be in that place where, as we are serving God, sometimes in that place where we are serving God could be the same place where we are hurt mostly. Because there are those probably who may have a different perception about us, or probably they could be ministers, but they are not as careful how they handle other people. Because you see, when you touch a minister, for example, you don't touch just one person. You touch his wife, you touch his children, and the diversity of many people who look up to that person. In fact, somebody said, or rather they were painting a picture of a chicken. which had been killed, and the chicks are around it looking so confused.
Miserable, yeah.
So that is how deep it goes whenever you touch a servant of God.
Yeah.
You are not just touching him, you are touching all the other people that he has influence over.
Yes.
And you know, for us, since we have been around Citam for those many years, how many people have we been influenced? How many people have we touched on air, you know, when we have preached and when we have talked with them? So I think there are things that happen in the church that need to be redirected and proper structure on how carrying out church discipline and other things like those, so that you don't jeopardize the ministry because you are trying to make something else right on the other side. So I believe a church, like every other institution, needs to learn, and it has got its own flaws because you are dealing with human beings. But when all is said and done, and that has been my focus, is that God is the one who called me into ministry. It is not an individual. It is not a particular church. And so when you continue to maintain that focus, and I like the way Paul puts it, you know, fixing our eyes on Jesus, who is the author
and the finisher,
and the perfecter of your faith, or finisher, according to another version. That way then it settles everything. That you are not here to, you know, work to make other people happy, but the person that you're working for and that you're serving is God himself. And it is him who will reward you, not man. Yeah, not man. In fact, sometimes man may not even see the good things that you've done. They will only wait when you have done that one mistake. Then they will come crashing on you like this. But for us, we have, again, God helping us in our maturity and being able to look at things in a more wider and deeper way. Have had to forgive. I've had to let go certain things. Because when you look at the bigger picture and you see the repercussions that will cause if you made the wrong moves, you then humble yourself. And tell God, you know, this is your work. This is about your glory. It's not about me. You know, you want to step back and diminish or decrease, like Paul would say, and let God increase.
Is it easy?
It is not. It's not.
Maybe let me add one aspect.
Being the spouse, I was just looking at you. If I was married to a pastor and he's been hurt by the church or something has been done unfairly, I think I'm the one who would be telling him, hey, Jackson, let's go and cook chapati.
As a wife, a spouse of a pastor, or even the children, you are hurt even more than the person who is, because there's a grace on pastors, or let me say on him, that you see he's being able to handle this thing, and you are hurting because you're seeing it from, you're there and yet not there, because you're not the employee, you're not the pastor, but you can see what he's going through, and you know this person. There may be things that are being said which are like the rumors you're talking about. You as the spouse and the children, you know they're not true. But you don't have a platform to stand and tell people, by the way, it is not true what they're saying. So you just let God vindicate you. And one thing you asked that, you mentioned about the rumors that Citam has asked us to live peacefully. Let's be fair to Citam. They have not asked us to live. The pastors have a 3-year contract, which we have renewed since 1998. So this time round, he is not renewing it. Simply that. Citam
how do you
has not asked us to live. No.
When you mentioned children, my heart just went, I've never thought about it.
Like we said right from the word go, our children have been part of us. Everything that we do, we have a certain disclosure and a certain transparency with our children.
We are open.
They know everything that goes on. They understand where we are. We discuss even the changes that are going on in ministry with
because
them.
Normally they affect us sometimes.
So
you have to move.
They are not completely cut off. And by virtue of that also, it has helped them to somehow also be cushioned against certain things that were going to have probably happened with them or could have happened on them. And so again, what I would say is that looking at ministry, now that I've been in ministry for the last 30 plus years, is that it is a place where you must have a solid ground. And the solid ground is your relationship with God.
With God.
Yeah. And as my mentor, the Reverend Dennis White used to tell us, two things you have to avoid in ministry is titles and positions.
Oh.
Yeah.
He says they will take you to hell.
Yes, those are things that people fight about. Those are things that have split churches.
Yes.
Those are things that have caused a lot of commotion and a lot of heartache in people's lives. And I thank God I got that counsel when I was still a young pastor coming into ministry. And so for me, it has never been because of position or title.
Yes.
Yeah. For me, it's serving God's people. And the testimony is there. Anywhere you go, look around Citam. They will tell you who Pastor Ken is and who he has been to them. And to me, that is the legacy I would want to leave with Citam. That we have ministered to God's people. We walked with them when they needed a pastor to walk with them. We stood with them in the moment when they were vulnerable. We were able to wed them. And my goodness me, haven't we done weddings in this Citam?
There's a year he did 40 weddings in 1 year. 40 weddings.
We have
and he has enjoyed it.
We have dedicated their children. We have dedicated their homes, their cars.
We have our friends there. We love Citam.
We have gone all over. We have. I mean, we gave ourselves wholeheartedly, without any reservations. Not because anybody of any status. We have been to Korokocho. We have jumped over those flying toilets.
Yes.
Because those were our members. As much as we have also been to those affluent places. So and I think that is the kind of ministry, really, that God desires of us, that when we do ministry, we do it as unto the Lord.
Yes.
And I catch that from one of the scriptures that has also been my philosophy of ministry, and that is none other than 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 5, that our competence is not of our own, it's of God. It is God who has made us. And so he who has made us is the one who has given us these abilities and opportunities. And it is to him that we need to offer ourselves and serve his people. The other scripture also that has been very foundational in shaping my philosophy of ministry is Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 and 24, that says that whatever you do, do it as unto God and not as unto man, because you will receive an inheritance from God. And it is Christ that you are serving. And so ours, really, it is simple and as straightforward as that. No additions, no subtractions. So titles, positions, those ones, they don't move me at all. No. Our position, our title has been to serve God's people. And they are the ones who can tell you who we have meant to them over the years that we have served in Citam. When we came here in Gong, again, when we were in that transition
in August,
of moving,
in August last year.
This was a new place. We had never been here.
Tungong,
but we opened our hearts to these people here, and they just received us, and we embraced them.
They have shown us a lot of love.
Yeah, church now is blossoming, full of life. From the children to the youth to the adults, everybody knows us because we have interfaced with all those.
We go to them where they are.
Wow.
Usually, what he says is he just needs a platform to serve God's people. So if you take him in a shack in Kibera, he'll still preach. One day I heard a fellow pastor say, when we were in Buruburu, I know if Pastor Ken is asked to go and start a church on the moon, he will go, and I will go with him. And I thought, hey, even me, I need to go. I don't want to be left behind. That is what he understood by his ministry. He looks, or we look for, a platform to serve. If the platform is availed, we serve God's people. Within or without Citam,
Yeah.
but we love Citam.
Yeah.
This is where we have grown up. We have lots of friends, beautiful memories, especially in the different congregations we've gone
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And we would want to see Citam thrive.
Right.
We want to look back and say, wow,
Wow.
now there is so much growth in Citam.
Citam.
Not because of us or anybody else,
Yeah.
but because it is God's church.
Yeah.
And they'll be seeing us around in their church. You'll see us in Thika Road, you will see us in Kikuyu, you will see when we have opportunity, we can walk into any Citam church. We've been all over, the ones in Western region, and we would love to go there and minister to God's people, even after we have left.
Wow.
We are so open.
Yeah.
And you know you'll be missed.
Oh.
What do you tell us, the congregation, as we wind up?
No, as we have already said,
Yeah.
ministry is a calling from God, and it is Him who then guides and directs you.
Yeah.
And I've always used the example of the children of Israel, as they journeyed through the wilderness. When the cloud would stop, they would stop.
Yeah.
When the cloud moved,
They moved.
And I think ministry is almost similar. There are times when the cloud moves and you need to just move with it. There are times it stops and you stop with it. Then the other picture that I also like to use is the story of Abraham. Abraham was told, come, go. He didn't know where he was going to, how things were going to happen for him. But all he knew is that God had called him for a godly, divine purpose.
Yeah.
And for us, that's what we give ourselves to, to serve God within or outside of Citam. Yeah, because the Church of God is not just limited to Citam. The people of God are not just limited to Citam. We have people of God all over the world. And we would want to see ourselves probably serving at that global platform. And I know as we are living, we are living people with good thoughts about us.
Yeah.
But perchance, if anybody was stepped on by us or stumbled by us or
Forgive
feel
us.
that we hurt them in any way, we would be very careful at this point to ask for your forgiveness. And to let you know, like as I've already said from the word go, we are not perfect human beings.
Yeah.
And by virtue of not being perfect, we may have said something or did something
that has
that may have stumbled you or hurt you in one way or the other. And we would ask to forgive us and that we move on. And also for you to know that you belong to God, and God is the ultimate person that you need to really have a relationship with. And so long as your relationship with God is okay, then all the other aspects of your life also kind of will be taken care of.
Amen.
Yeah.
We will also miss them. We will miss the warmth in Citam. All over, all the congregations, very warm congregations. We have enjoyed a lot of favor and love from the congregations.
Oh, yeah.
We cannot even complain. The people in Gong, for example, where we are living to go, they barely know us. One year and they really love us. Really love us. Really love us. And we feel it. So we will also miss. And whenever we get a chance to come, we will be quick to go to a Citam church and just enjoy the warmth.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
But by the time we're airing this, maybe you'll not be there.
Maybe.
Well,
Where can we reach
since
you?
it is on media, media is everywhere.
Everywhere.
Media is everywhere.
So just let us know
couples
you'll be-
who want to reach out to you, they can always
Yes.
speak out.
And we are
yes.
going to be strong on media now.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah,
We
I think
will.
that is another door that God will
Yeah.
be opening for us.
Yeah.
I would want to encourage my wife to revive the well that
The
she
well.
used to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yes,
YouTube.
yeah. Because again, she has also her own special way of reaching out, particularly to the ladies, and that is something that we would want to continue doing.
Yes. Yeah.
And for me also, I would want to continue being an encouragement to the people of God.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know many people know me having answered their questions every Friday, and I keep on meeting people in strange places, and they say, I know that voice. You used to speak to us, on air, and not that it makes me feel inflated. No. It just helps me appreciate the fact that ministry goes far and wide. There are strange places that we go to, and out of nowhere somebody says, "Oh, Pastor, oh, Bishop," Yeah, so we have our people in all kinds of places, and we want to appreciate the impact that we have made. And we just want to pray that you pray for us as we move on. And we will continue to pray for you. And as the Lord so allows, when our paths can be able to meet again, we give thanks to God.
Amen. May He continue ordering your steps. I'm looking forward and excited about your transition. And thank you so much. On behalf of all the families, marriages, children, golden ages, congregation, that you've impacted, I just want to say thank you.
Amen.
May the Lord keep rewarding you. And thank you for your time even on this show. We have learned and we are encouraged. Yes, we're going to miss you physically, but I know we'll keep in touch.
Yes, we will.
May God bless you. Thank you for watching as well. We'll keep having these conversations. Hope you've been inspired. Leave a comment. Let's know what you've learned and what you're looking forward to as well. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.